historically speaking, NA has always done well week 1, but not so well week 2.
Cloud9 looks super good, and now suddenly Cloud9 to me are favorites to join SKT out of the group.
Good thing for us in Cloud9 is we're heading into week 3 because we played in the play-ins, so we have nothing to worry about.
这一场比赛打到真的小组赛当中，目前的一个状况，对于 EDG 来说，可以说太难了，真的太难了。
我觉得，因为我们还是有很大机会出现的，所以说就是我觉得笑到最后的才是胜利者，所以说我觉得我们的比赛还没有结束。
我觉得这一周对我们来说最重要的事就是我们要相信彼此团结。 才有办法赢下每一场比赛。
In the face of disaster, managed to find the fight. This is their nexus. This is their game.
They're running out of time. No more forgiving. No use of running.
SKT just turned their base into dust. Once again, undefeated here in the group.
네, 이번에 3대 0까지는 당연한 결과라고 생각하고 이번 2주차는 SKT라는 이름에 걸맞는 좀 더 압도적인 경기력 보여드리겠습니다.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Wuhan, China for the final day of the world's group stage. After some close fights for quarterfinals earlier this week, we're ready for more action as the teams in Group A look to secure their spot in the knockout stage. It will be bittersweet to say goodbye to this arena and these fans who have been incredible here in Wuhan in support of all of their favorite teams and players. SKT making their way into the arena a short time ago. Heavy favorites here, sitting at 3-0 at the moment. Hello, everyone. I'm James Dash Patterson, joined by Indiana Frosker in black, Alberto Crumbs Rengifo, and Isaac Azale Cummings Bentley. 45 games played so far in the group stage over 7 days, at least 6 more to go. How you guys feeling? How's it been? How's the ride been?
Rocky if you're an NA fan.
Definitely Rocky is an NA fan, but the games have delivered, am I right?
Absolutely. I feel great.
You do?
Yeah, my team.
Even looking at EDG today?
Yeah, first seed, there's still hope. If Fnatic made the blueprint, EDG can also follow that.
I think it's just been so fun because we've had so many upsets, so many crazy games. Really, I think it's almost impossible to have predicted all the games so far, the results that have come out, the impressive performances from Misfits and Fnatic coming back, you know, when people didn't really expect much of those teams.
Very much so. Now, yesterday we saw Team WE become the second Chinese team to secure the first seed in their group after a solid comeback in their last match against Misfits Gaming.
And it's been a long time coming. Team WE started their road in play-ins, and they started a little bit shaky, a little bit slow, but they're finally starting to warm up to the first, or the high compliments that I gave them coming into this tournament. I've always said I felt that they were the strongest LPL team despite being the 3rd seed, and people are starting to get a glimpse why I was so respectful to this team.
And right now we're sitting with 2 LPL teams in the 1st seed, 1 Korean team as a 1st seed, of course, still left to play SKT and EDG today.
Sure, just like Clearlove said, it actually is not decided until the very end, and even though they are 0-3, they do kind of have their fate in their own hands, so long as SKT do deliver that crazy performance.
Along with Team WE, Misfits Gaming managed to take the 2nd spot after a dominating victory in the tiebreaker against TSM. The EULCS squad played in Challenger a year ago. Now they're ready for the quarterfinals here at Worlds, looking to prove all of the experts wrong yet again, except for Crumbs.
Yeah, well, I knew it from the very start. But yes, it's because this team has adapted well, and we were wondering about their breakout stars. You know, PoE and Maxar were going to have great synergy, but what about the top, and what about the AD carry? Who is going to step it up to the plate and deliver? And first week, it didn't look so great, but the second one, Hans Sama really just blew it out of the water.
I mean, they all stepped up in some way, and to me, what really spoke to me about the team is that they built their own style, right? We're watching their style develop and find its way into the tournament meta.
Yeah, and especially Maxler. I do want to put a magnifying glass on him. I think his jungle pathing has been impeccable. That last tiebreaker game against TSM, he had to make the tough decision. Do I allow myself to get 3-buffed, or do I try to turn the tables on this Cho versus Jace matchup?
After TSM's exit, C9 is the only hope for North America as they find themselves in second place behind the reigning champions SKT. Now, the LPL's EDG are at the bottom with 0 wins, but as we saw with Fnatic, nothing is impossible at the World's 2017 group stage.
And if we've seen with Immortals, we saw with TSM, nothing is impossible for NA either.
Definitely.
Unfortunately, in the wrong direction. I still have some hope left, though, for C9, as they really did have a very impressive week 1, and they are one of the teams that looked like they were kind of creating their own meta. They were playing their own style and had some confidence with that.
They've been here before. They have made it out of groups last year. They have been in the position where they're the last hope. They do look impressive, and when you compare them to Immortals and TSM, they look like the team that just is the better NA team out of the 3 that came here.
Now let's check out some of the action we have in store for our final day here in Wuhan. First up, SKT look to keep their undefeated streak against AHQ before EDG start their comeback attempt against Cloud9. After our final quarterfinalists are decided, we will have a knockout stage draw to find out our matchups for the upcoming weeks. Then stay tuned for a special top 20 edition of Worlds Tonight. Coming into today, the hometown team EDG are in a tough position, but they have shown the ability to come back from deficits before, most recently in the LPL Summer Finals.
Okay, so the big name that we have to talk about today is Clearlove. He is playing in front of his home crowd. He is literally from Wuhan. So this isn't just a Chinese player playing in front of China. This is a Wuhanese player playing in front of Wuhan. He has been the rock, the spine of EDG, and if he crumbles, they will fall apart. He took spring 2017 off just because of the disaster that happened at Worlds. I thought for sure that was going to be his retiring point. He came back in summer, he drove them to the finals, looked down the barrel of Uzi, and took home the championship. And to have a devastating start like this is just crippling. Before, I would say EDG are done. They have fallen. There's no way they get back up from this. But Clearlove has reformed himself, and I think there's still fight left in them.
And while EDG have been performing below expectations, Cloud9 are off to a great start, looking to secure their spot in the quarterfinals today.
I think one of the most impressive performances from Cloud9 has been that of Contracts. You know, he is this very young player. He's playing aggressive style junglers. He's not conforming to the meta so far, though he can also play those tanks. And the way that he has been playing has been enabling their lanes, has really been defining the Cloud9 style.
It's typical to talk about Jensen when we talk about Cloud9, but all of the other members building up around him has been key to their success.
Absolutely. Here. Impact has been playing significantly better. You know that you can count on Sneaky and Smoothie to just be solid. They're not going to go pop off, but they'll be there and they'll support the rest of the squad, especially with Contracts and Jensen, as Azale was mentioning. That is so important in this group, that you have mid laners that you can exploit, mid laners that are expecting a lot of attention as well.
Now that said, we're doing a lot of building up of Cloud9 throughout the tournament. We've got a lot of faith in them, right? A lot of upside potential. Where do they fall short? Where are the weaknesses and the holes in their play from week 1 that they could look to improve upon here in week 2?
See, I actually think it goes back a little bit further. When I was setting up on Cloud9 getting ready for the play-ins, I was looking at the regional qualifier finals. I was like, well, Impact's having a better performance than he had pretty much the entire split, so that's already a great sign. But their decisiveness, especially around how they choose when to fight, was always kind of the drawback for me. I felt like their setup was great, but when they could pull the trigger, they didn't do it soon enough. That completely changed when they faced EDG. They made a call onto a teleport. It didn't quite work. I was like, classic Cloud9. They're going to back away. They're going to lose all of their setup, all of their time. Nah, Impact flashed in. He found a 3-man taunt, and it was a beautiful setup for Jensen. So I actually think Cloud9 are performing super well because they've already shored up the weaknesses that we saw domestically from them.
Up next, we've got the reigning champions, SKT, who despite winning all of their games, did look vulnerable in that first week.
Sure, but this SKT is the same SKT that comes into every Worlds. They take group stage as an opportunity to learn, and coming into this tournament, the summer split was not very good. Remember that this is a roster between Huni and Pina that was struggling all year long, and so all summer long rather, and so they're kind of figuring out what works and what doesn't for them, and so I expect them to just improve every single time. And if that's not enough to convince you on SKT, remember that up to now, their entire group stage performance is a whopping 21-2 record.
And the scariest part about that is we still talk so much about how they improve throughout the tournament. Well, they're going to improve from a 90% win rate, over 90% win rate. That is absurd, and that's the level that this team does bring to international competition. I mean, we heard Wolf talk about it in the intro. They're going to bring a level of dominance that rings true to the SKT name.
In pursuit of perfection, man. They got 3 world titles. Now they just got to do it without dropping the game. Finally, we have the 2nd seed from the LMS in AHQ, who showed some promise in their first 3 games.
And the guy that I really want to highlight is Chowie. Unfortunately, we haven't seen a lot of him. I think that, you know, they keep starting Westor, and I thought maybe it was a synergy thing, you know, between Westor and Mountain. They've been playing much longer together, but even if you look at that team statistically, Mountain's not playing more around Westor than he is around Chowie. So I don't know why AHQ keep kind of fumbling or splintering their team dynamic there. I'd like to see them commit to one mid laner.
All right, well, as we close out the week, I'm going to give you one last chance to make a fool out of yourselves here. Down the line predictions, top 2 getting out of the group. Frost?
Unfortunately, I think I'm just the curse for NA. I'll actually take the flame here.
NA is actually the curse for NA.
I'm actually going to go SKT and Cloud9. It's not that I don't believe that EDG could make the same run that Fnatic did. I just don't have the confidence in both EDG and AHQ for all of the stars for them to align to catch up to the dominance that Cloud9 has shown.
A lot of pieces have to fall into place for EDG today. Crumbs?
Exactly. We already had an Equinox for Fnatic, so I don't expect it to happen again for either EDG or HQ. So I'm having SKT coming out first with the dominance, and Cloud9 that looks better. Maybe they can actually put up a fight against SKT, but if they do, they'll probably have to face a tiebreaker. No matter what, 2nd place for Cloud9.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I mean, surely it can happen a 3rd time, right, guys? I mean, right?
Don't get too excited.
Well, you know, one thing I know is that when all of you are certain, things are definitely uncertain. Well, we've seen a lot of big plays so far this week, and we want to know what your favorites are. So hit us up at LOL Esports using that hashtag Worlds 2017, and we'll highlight them at the end of the day. For now, though, time to send it over to the casters to get us into the games. Enjoy.
Thank you very much, Dash, and hello, everybody. Welcome to the Commonwealth Cast. I'm Trevor Quickshot Henry, joined by Chris Papa Smithy Smith, as well as Zach Rusty Pie.
Top of the morning for the top of the innings. Love it.
G'day, champion. Let's have a bloody cracker, shall we?
And there's actually more synergy here than people probably know. You and I were teammates in a professional League of Legends team many years ago in a different world, not even OPL days,
you know,
but secret synergy
The
here.
3 of us are from different worlds. I just wish we could talk about cricket and rugby. That's a different game, though. Today, we're going to talk about AHQ trying to fight for their tournament lives. They are starting with West Door, something that Frostkuren was talking about on the analyst desk, and thought the rest of the squad, Ziv, Mountain, Arn, Albus, and their coach, Green Tea.
Their opponents, of course, it is those 2 times in a row world champions, 3 times overall, SK Telecom T1. Huni in the top lane, Peanut maintains his position in the jungle, Faker, Bang, and Wolf, and your coach, of course, it's Coma.
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult game here for AHQ. Look, last time they did challenge SKT, of course, Faker ran that Fizz, but it just kind of fell apart in the mid-game, didn't it, Papa Smitty?
And that was kind of my take as well. I must admit, I walked in a little bit late during the Champ Select. I saw Fizz against AHQ, and I was like, not against Westor, surely. It wasn't Westor on the day. But I actually thought that AHQ played well around Westor's pressure. They roamed really well. SKT had kind of a weird invasion pattern early in the game, trying to really get in the face of Mountain. SKT, I don't think, has the tonic together yet to really dominate Worlds like we might have expected, but they're still SK Telecom, so hopes are high.
It was curious from SKT in that game, to say the least, but I do have to commend AHQ. They were very quick to the punch, they did not hesitate, and they kept up.
Yeah, and of course, 2 members that continue to perform throughout the week 1, Bang and Wolf, rock stars on the SK Telecom side. Right, we're jumping into week 2. We'll talk more about the individual players as we get into game. But something we were talking about over the course of week 2 is how each group has their own unique meta, their own flavor. And something I want to keep my eyes on is the Shen, and whether or not it becomes more impactful as the day goes out, or whether it disappears.
Bit on the nose with the impactful comment there, because Impact, of course, has been our best Shen so far at Worlds 2017. But that's kind of been the thing that I'm most exuberant about. I sat on Worlds Tonight last week, and I said, wow, it feels like things have stagnated. Where's the proactivity? Yeah. Some teams were proactive, some teams had new reads on the meta. We have Cloud9 with their aggressive junglers. So I'm hopeful, Rusty, that we get more innovation.
We have seen a whole bunch of it, and I agree with what you guys are saying as well. This may be the Shen group, because we've already seen it to be super successful, and perhaps speculation would be that Shen is in the banned column in this group, but not yet.
Not just yet, but Killister once again finds herself there, the 80th ban of the tournament. Huni will have his Cho'Gath denied, and if I run through the rest, Zai Gyricon removed from AHQ, as well as Talia, Galio, and Callista. So first pick, where are we going, Pup Smithy?
Very interesting. I mean, Janna has been rising in priority. People have decided that they flip-flopped on where they started Worlds group stages at. It was Lulu over Janna. Now it's largely Lulu into Janna. SKT as a team have been opting into bot lane, heal barrier, defensive lanes. So I think they're happy to take whatever. I would imagine it's going to be the Lulu, and they'll just lock it in.
Yeah, well, no hesitation as well, looking the Jarvan with it, a champion that has seen some conflict on the Rift. Really good performances, but also some shaky ones. If you look back to Flash Wolves yesterday, having pretty rough showings. However, great champion, really big engaged tool, and can navigate around Janna exceptionally well by being able to ult over the Monsoon or over the Howling Gales.
Let's see, where do AHQ go next? We've obviously got a number of those high-tier AD carries still available. Tristana up as well. Arn's going to decide to lock in the Cogmore. Played it once last week. Was a defeat, unfortunately.
I'm very interested to see how SKT navigate the solo lanes of AHQ, because Faker versus Westdoor, in terms of play, we know it to now in 2017 be a bit of a mismatch. You do see Faker as someone who can take the ascendancy, like we saw Scout, for example, doing very notably in EDG versus AHQ. But do you just lock in a lane-dominant mid lane, a Syndra, for example, early, and then actually focus on the one tumultuous lane to me, which is the top lane? Ziv is phenomenally talented, and Huni has had up and down performances. We actually see a Gragas very early here, which suggests that we're probably seeing Jarvan or Gragas top.
And staying with that similar sort of pattern that we continue to see throughout week one, AD carries potentially to be banned out. Alternatively, AHQ can remove the likes of that Syndra or some of those other comfort picks on the side of Faker. There's never really an easy answer with only 2 bans against that man.
I mean, the easy choice here would be a Twitch and a Tristana potentially away from Bang, 2 very strong champions that you may not want to give him when you've got the Cogmore and the Janna running around. Maybe not match the scaling, force them into something earlier.
And the thing you take away here is if you wanted Tristana, you were going to take it earlier. If it was a different team, one of these tempo teams likes to crash the turrets early and rotate, Tristana would have been taken. But SKT have been playing so scaling focused. They are not interested in taking risk in the early game, playing the proactive style that I know I ascribe to be the best way to play. So far, no Tristana priority from SKT, but no Tristana ban either.
And expectations here from SK Telecom, which is why I like AHQ's ban, is that it will be a Maokai locked in for them, because they've gotten rid of the Renekton, they've gotten rid of the Gnar, and they want to have those top lane tanks there.
But they already have Gragas and Jarvan locked in.
Actually, yeah.
Renekton is very strong in lane
Both
against Jarvan. That's okay. You got that on the mind, but the Renekton does well against Jarvan. I think it will just be the Jarvan top, and they go for a lane priority choice at going for Varus, who we also saw from Prey has the late game damage as well.
Absolutely the case, and definitely one of these sort of sleeper hits in the AD carry role. Varus here at Worlds 2017, definitely putting up some great performances. We touched on the Shen already. Game 1 here locked in for Ziv, and I see a protect the AD carry comp if ever I've seen one. What is the door run to close it out?
Does the Orianna, perhaps?
That would
know
be...
it's not the best Ori player, or he could just fizz into Faker.
We get the doors fizz.
No, we get the doors blind fizz against the best player of all time. This is definitely the way we go. We were talking in the story meeting, who would play? Would it be Westdoor versus Chowie? It had to be Westdoor getting one shot against Faker before Worlds was over. He went with the blind pick and the reverse matchup from years ago.
Please lock in the captain. It is the reverse matchup from semifinals 2015. In fact, it's the exact matchup. Exact matchup with Faker running Casted into Fizz all the way back. That was when it was a 3-0. The rest of the games didn't go in favor of Westdoor as well, but this was a bit more of an even match.
And there was a solo kill by Westdoor in that game. It's the game you remember when you think of Westdoor versus Faker. It traps you into thinking that actually it was Westdoor doing well overall. That was the game where Westdoor stood strong, even against Faker.
All right, let's step back. Rusty, what do we see when we look at these two team compositions? I see that split pusher in Fizz on the side of HQ, and the rest of it screams, keep on alive.
Yeah, it's definitely protecting that Cogmore with 2 big tanks to stand in front of him. The wild card is definitely going to be the Fizz from Westdoor. And what's interesting is that SKT chose to match the Fizz, have the teleporting mid laners, have the potential 1-3-1 there for both teams respectively. And that does raise some questions as to why AHQ would take them on in that.
You know that Koma has a large voice in SKT's team comps, but when he sees a blind Fizz lock-in, I bet Faker's voice gets suddenly louder. He wants to opt into it. Both teams have strong 1-3-1, but 1-3-1 plus Shen is an extra global, so it's an extra variable for SKT to consider.
Oh, so exciting in game one here in our final day of groups. It's like a present being unwrapped, and it's fitting that the Gragas skin that Peanut's running is the Christmas one as well. Papa Smithy, we're jumping into AHQ taking on SKT. And for the miracles to align, the equinox, as Crumbs called it, AHQ needs to start picking up some wins, and so do EDG. We'll see if they can start right now.
And on the side of SK Telecom, it's all about, okay, you won 3 games, but interestingly, it was a bit of a slow one for SKT. We'll definitely be able to complement that with some stats and things, but SK Telecom still have questions to answer, even if the record looks clean.
Yeah, and whilst the early game may be a question for SKT, it hasn't been a major strength for AHQ either, respectively, for themselves. And this is one thing you would look at in this matchup and say, well, AHQ need that if they want to beat SKT at all. Early pressure, some kind of control on Summoner's Rift is very important.
I mean, you look at this game and AHQ have almost looked at the same stats that we did and say, wait, SK Telecom's playing for the late game, we'll go for scaling. They've had famous games at Rift Rivals against EDG this tournament where their late game team fighting wasn't a question. But you're against SK Telecom, the team that already this tournament has had massive turnarounds, 10,000 gold behind, and made it work. So fighting with fire is certainly a risky choice against SKT.
Well, let's see whether or not the door can lead AHQ to victory. Double teleports on both sides. Obviously, that Stand United is going to be pivotal. And if Ziv and Westo can combo, maybe around Arn, maybe around these side lanes, and attack SKT in that early game, Papa Smithy, that is that opportunity, and that's what I want to see them do.
It certainly is, and using Shen aggressively around level 6, something I'd like to see. EDG mentioned that the Shen was a headache, but we weren't seeing them being super proactive. I want to note a small stat, actually. It's actually Westdoor's first game of Fizz this year. It hasn't been a cornerstone of his champ pool. 1 game of TF right at the end of the season in the playoffs. No Fizz the entire year, and then blind Fizz against Faker. This is playing the opponent, not necessarily playing his own tendencies.
When your back's against the wall, fall back to your best champion, your most famous champion. Let's expand a little bit on the SKT early game struggles, gentlemen, because it is, you know, still a team at 3-0, but their goal difference at 15 minutes, minus 1,000 gold, 12th of the teams here in groups. Damage at 15, low as well. Opponent towers, they've conceded a whole bunch.
And it's a story that SKT have dealt with year after year. Ramping up in week 2, week 1 being a little bit weaker. You look at the stats here, goal difference at 15, 12th out of the 16 teams in the group stage, 14th in every other stat basically here. They are not having proactive early games. They're opting into scaling. So while the scoreboard does read 3-0, I think the same question marks about adaptation, about showing something new, should be raised about SKT.
I think they took that adaptation and they ran away with it in these games last week. They are playing very passively, and a lot of that is through the jungle position where Peanut hasn't been super proactive running around on the Rift.
Let's see where Peanut is right now. Already done that clear, started on the scuttle in the top corner of the map, give a little bit of additional coverage for Huni. And keeping a close eye on the rest of the lanes, we've got a pretty standard farm alarm here as the game opens up. Huni gets the flag and drag, Ziv replies with a small taunt, and it's just some cheeky trading back and forth, and nothing really to speak of yet. I'm looking to see where the junglers prioritize their first ganks.
There's a very real chance that if you're the Gragas here, you'd be looking towards the top side when it bounces back. So not immediately, but it's a really good place to get a Jarvan rolling in. He can influence the rest of the map extremely well. But the other thing to do with this top lane, you mentioned earlier, Quickshot, is the fact that Fizz can go up there could affect that. But if you get to mid-game, he could affect that even better. Most Jarvans will go 2 offense items. Fizz can assassinate that very handily because they both have teleports. The map presence from that play is very significant.
And taking a step back, when we look at lane priority, Jarvan certainly will have the pushing options in the early game against the Shen. So top lane, you'd go to SKT. Varus, Lulu is a very oppressive pushing lane in bottom. So in 2 lanes, they actually have the ability to potentially invade around the pressure of Peanut. Peanut largely has spent this tournament around top and mid lane providing wards, almost a throwback to Benki of last year and famously his playstyle. He has not been invading like a lot of Worlds fans saw at Worlds 2016. This is the sort of game where if they play around their priorities, they have a lot more flexible options just because they've adapted their draft a little bit to have some presence in the early game.
All right, well, let's see where that presence appears, gentlemen, because it's about 5 minutes in. Double bust for both the respective junglers. You can see Peanut starting to make his way towards that middle lane as Bang and Wolf are shoving in on and Albus. And I was going to have a little bit of farming duty under the tower. No real surprises here. It feels like I'm looking at some of the CS differences. Faker's already got a healthy lead in that mid lane, but again, into Fizz early levels, you kind of expect that.
Yeah, you definitely do. Fizz has some outplay, and there are instances where he might be closer to equal, but it's dependent on the trades, and Faker expertly with the Kassadin is throwing out at the correct time, and has been doing very well.
And I love to see Peanut playing around that priority. You can see the triangle of wards already put on the bot side jungle. Doesn't spot anyone right now, but lets them know that Sejuani is inevitably going to be on the top side of her jungle. So a lot of information here. Even knowing when a camp respawns gives a team a lot of information about where the enemy jungler is going to be.
Yeah, thank you to the observers for highlighting those wards, of course, giving some safety to Bang and Wolf, allow them to keep pushing. Bang this tournament, I was saying in the pregame, just great performance. Bang and Wolf is a duo, but specifically looking at Bang, post-Rift Rivals in at Worlds.
And that was unfortunately where Bang really started to fall away in terms of regular season play, was after Rift Rivals. The numbers don't necessarily turn your nose up. They weren't necessarily Bang being a low tier 80 carry in Korea, but he lost a lot of his luster, and I think a lot of that actually, Quickshot, was the meta evolving. We lost the Enchanter supports that Wolf is strongest at. It's usually the Lulus. He looked great on the Nami famously, and the Zyra way back when at MSI. But as the meta favorite engaged, there were these little moments where Bang would be caught many more times than you would expect for a player of his caliber. And now, with us going back to Janna, back to Lulu, back to Enchanter supports, he looks oh so much more comfortable, and Wolf alongside him is still great.
And to give some extra context for the CSD at Worlds specifically, he's played 2 Twitch games and a Cogmore game. They're not exactly win lane champions, but he is playing so incredibly well with Wolf as a duo that they've been able to get leads like that, and that is something that probably shouldn't happen.
Well, shouldn't happen, and we'll see whether or not Bang and Wolf can accelerate ahead. They're even with Arnon Albus into this Cogmore Janna lane. It's still around a 10 CS game in the middle, and Rusty, as you were mentioning earlier, Huni already returned to lane to that teleport. He's got himself the Tiamat. Level 6 for Westor and teleport, so there is a potential King of Demacia, or Prince of Demacia, that could be jumped on.
There definitely is. It's a place that I will be keeping my eyes peeled towards. Having the Tiamat, you can see contrasted by Ziv's Barmy Cinder, means they'll both be focusing on clearing the waves, which to me speaks that AHQ's strategy may be around 5 people towards the bottom side of the Rift. You know that Peanut, as you mentioned, Papa Smithy loves the top and mid sides. Well, there's a very obvious place that you can go that isn't where Peanut is.
And definitely, and I like to see where Ziv goes from here. A lot of top laners on Shen will actually go Barmy Cinder into Tiamat for the most possible wave clear. If they are worried about the potential for Peanut to take over Mountain's jungle, you go double early game focused wave clear items and try to match pace with the Jarvan, if not actually have the skills to eclipse a Jarvan.
All right, well, first teleport already being used. Down the bottom lane, a number of pings from SKT.
Yeah, Peanut spotted him quite a while ago. Didn't have the vision, but was physically there to see him. It was only Westor's teleport, so don't take too much from it. He's just going back to his middle lane anyway, seeing what they could perhaps get done by poking their heads around.
Yeah, maybe a little optimistic or opportunistic. However, nothing really gained or lost. It's still a small advantage for Faker, and he's going to maintain that teleport. So important to note that Faker can react to a Stand United play if it were to break out offensively in the next few minutes. And we continue just this even farming game, and it's going to be an interesting mid-game because there is a lot of engagement, a lot of potential for engage on both sides. If anyone is caught napping, if anyone's vision starts to fall behind, and look at this Mountain already bullied out of his jungle.
But that's because Westor is bottom lane right now. It's the EDG mantra from AHQ right now. Find any opportunity to go towards the bottom lane, get your Cogmore ahead, and when it's ahead, you have a win condition. But you have to remember what they concede, what they sacrifice, and give away to make that happen at all. Right now, it's a Fizz's blue buff.
Yeah, you're getting Cogmore even CS by basically clearing out any bot lane pressure, but you are giving bonus objectives to the side of SKT. So SKT playing around pressure, something they haven't been able to do because that was not the mantra of their drafts in week 1. It's not a surprise that they're showing that, but it's good to see some strategic flexibility as they roll into an inevitable best of 5 phase.
And we're going to be looking towards the rest of the games today as well. 3 games per team minimum. How much growth have we seen? The analyst desk was talking about the ridiculous win-loss of the SKT organization and franchise in groups. yet we can still look at clear weaknesses, clear areas of opportunity that could get punished. And it's up to AHQ to demonstrate over the last week. They have learned, they have adapted, and importantly, they can do so.
That worry that history will repeat itself. Albus is very aggressively trying to hold the lane here for his AD carry.
Done so well. 2 minions have died, and On should be able to get that last one as we catch a quick glimpse in the mid lane. Flash still available for Faker. Let's see where the CC comes from. There's the permafrost as well. Chum the Waters tags from a good distance. First blood to Westor.
Very simple.
They held on to everything for just the right time. Really clean execution there. Getting first blood for Westor on the blind pick Fizz will only help the mentality of AHQ.
And super awesome to watch the mind game from Mountain against Faker. They forced the flash out of him. He knew that it was happening sooner or later and just casually walks up to get the 4th auto attack. Guaranteed stun. From that point, Faker probably shouldn't flash at all.
Really well done by AHQ. Get themselves a small advantage. And of course, the kill secured by Westor is just fantastic. Here's a replay of the mechanics.
Yeah, and you'll see that the first spells hit the flails from Mountain. Westor's done most of the work so far. Hits the fish as the stun connects, and really good layering of CC from them. And then Westor and Mountain's awareness of Peanut was the other big substantial thing there. They tried to dodge the cast.
There was actually vision over that wall. I feel like it was just the decisiveness caught Faker unaware, and in the end of the day, he falls. Like you say, the mind game for Flash. Unfortunately, the Sejuani's faster, so there was no way for him to stop a literal melee range ultimate, so he chose a Flash, it failed. Very nicely engineered by HQ.
And it manages to give them a minor advantage, though. A huge amount. Westor continues to trade with that Urchin Strike, and first items were picked up, gentlemen. It's actually SKT a little ahead of the curve. That Rod of Ages completed. Bang going for a Wit's End first item. Obviously going to be benefiting the rest of the squad as well, but that's a little against the norm that we're usually seeing with that Rage Blade first.
Yeah, for me, that's just by spiking sooner and also spiking as a skirmish with more than 2 people in the fights. Lulu does a little bit more damage as a result of it, with an Ardent Sensor spike having ability power, but Kassadin now is also super relevant, as is Gragas, if they're hitting the same target that Bang is, and that could be a result of, if we fight, peel for Bang.
And it's the sort of thing that I want to sit back and really think about to try to uncover why, because we know that Rageblade's synergy with particularly the Ardent Sensor is the big reason you'll rush Rageblade, because it's on hits, and of course once you get the Ginsu's Rage with 6 auto attacks, you're applying them twice, you're getting the big on-hit healing. To me, I look at this with a double teleport team and I say, I get Wits in for damage for fighting early, and that means probably going to see some 5v5s in the bot lane if things go SKT's way.
I love it when there's parties in the bot lane. It gets me very excited.
We're in China. It's what happens here in every game of League of Legends, as far as I'm aware.
Is that true, Rusty?
Confirm. We love bottom lane a lot. A whole lot of bottom lane.
All right, let's see whether or not it'll go SKT or HQ's favor, because it's still an even game. Ardent Sensor picked up by Albus, so he's slightly ahead of the timing. But I want to just draw our attention to the CS differences for Westor. Still around 9 CS down as we're approaching 15 minutes. Westor's CSD at 15 in groups has not been great. Minus 31, as you can see on screen. And we'll see whether or not the potential kill threat here, or at least engage threat, can help cover some of that negativity.
The weirdest thing about Westor in the middle lane is how much time he spends out of lane, but not necessarily working with Mountain, just being invisible. Sometimes he'll go bottom lane, we saw this in this game already, by himself, just to have a look to see if he can get something done. Teleports to look at something with Mountain, doesn't commit to it. All of this time, Faker is farming, or his opponent mid laner is clearing the wave before they roam, and that's a lot of the CSD that he's having negatively for Westor.
Saw the roam around top blue buff, now we're seeing the same sort of roam here.
Smited by Mountain. And just to pick that up, I think Peanut smote just a little early in that one.
So it seems like both teams in general are doing what their drafts and where their pressure lies. So far it's been very ordered, if not a very explosive game. Faker, besides going down, has had control of the lane because Kassadin has a targeted ability to harass. Doesn't have to get into melee range, so despite it being melee versus melee, when it comes to actually contesting the creeps, you're taking free damage if you're the pit.
But I will say at this stage in the game, it's better for AHQ than SKT for this to be happening. For a Lulu Varus to go even with a Kog'Maw Janna is not something you want to happen in the game at all. It's a nice flash.
Great flash from On. Getting out of range of that Chain of Corruption, but rinse and repeat, right? Now the window is open for that bot lane party, gentlemen, here on Chinese soil.
And bot lane parties haven't been SKT's game plan so far at Worlds 2017. They've had Peanut play around covering mid and top. You see Witsand, you see an adjusted playstyle. The itemization supports what we're seeing the jungler doing. And it's good to see that sort of ordered decision making that even on reflection, even on a VOD review, you'd compliment for SKT. But the question is, does AHQ realize that and just really reinforce their bot lane?
I mean, it has been a week, right? It has been, you know, 7 days since the last time these teams have, 8 days since they've taken to the stage, and we know the support staff for HQ, we know their adaptation ability, we've seen it multiple years in a row. Mountain is gonna bully Peanut out of his jungle. Flashes are available now. Mountain's gonna get collapsed on. Look at Faker coming in from the side. Stand United starts to get channeled. Mountain may not survive the full channel. Chum the Waters comes in, buys enough time for Zip to arrive. Here comes Westel, 1-for-1. Junglers are down. Zip's looking for Faker. He's forced to run. Peanut blew his flash to survive. It ends up being a trade, top for jungler.
Yeah, Fizz was second to react, but has the easy ability to get over the wall, was a max range Fish as well. The Fizz is now 2-0. Faker picked up kill credit as well. But it took so long to actually burn down the first target that it ends up going even between AHQ and SKT. And we noted also, as that started, Mountain was actually 2 levels up in experience over Peanut.
And amazingly, he still is, even though he's the one who dies in that trade for AHQ. And a lot of this, we said it at the start of the day, Shen exists. Shen is level 11, biggest shield coming out of him. He's able to influence this, what looks like a great collapse from SKT, by enough time for Sejuani to put in overtime. Stays alive, does extra damage to everybody, and then a max range Fish will connect as well. And it's that length, duration of time that he spends alive that even lets AHQ trade at all.
Great play and counterplay. Gives AHQ a 600 gold lead. And as you mentioned, that level difference was 2 levels. There's 1,000 gold in favor of Mountain. Got themselves a couple of assists under his belt as well, which will help out in that case. And then a 20 CS difference at the moment between Westor and Faker, but Westor's supplementing that CSD difference with those kills. And of course, got the Proto Belt, got the Sheen. How much money does Arn have to go back and spend? 3K in the bank.
Yeah, just a bit.
Arn has survived laning phase extremely comfortably, and I think HQ will be very happy with this.
And yeah, this is mostly for the back. You don't want to gank for someone that has 3,000 gold, more than half the gold they have had in this game in the inventory. At this particular point is helping the push there. Mountain's basically unkillable right now. This early in the game, having almost a full Warmogs and Cinderhawk is insanely tanky.
Okay, gentlemen, I'm watching this game and I'm thinking to myself, if I turn the nameplates off, I really like this Cogmore, Shen, Sejuani going even and maybe even ahead, you know, at this stage. But then I turn the nameplates on and I go, is this really what you want to be doing against SKT?
Yeah.
Like, going into their strong zone. Now, Peanut's being bullied again. Mountain's actually flashed for this one. Great barrel to send Westor away. Chum the Waters did tag him. Westor continues to re-engage. Another permafrost. Peanut gets eaten. Faker's going to rift walk away to safety, and Peanut is just getting bullied by Mountain.
Yeah, completely bullied out. Really well done from the Sejuani once again. It's not the first time the Mountain's been moving into Peanut's jungle, and this is reciprocity for Peanut going into his before. So where is there no vision for SKT? The other side of the rift. Why is Peanut where there is no vision? Let's take him down.
And it's also Westor on the front foot, happy to roam even though his flash was down. And Faker usually is second to the roams. He's happy to use his teleport on Kassadin. But when it's close to mid lane, teleport's not going to close the distance. But greedy for the farm, great timing on the invade, and Mountain can be the impactful frontliner to allow many things to come down. Get to see the replay here. Watch where Faker is. He has to deal with a minion wave. Teleport's not going to get him there faster, and the moment the fish lands, Peanut is dead.
Yeah, absolutely. Mountain just a very sticky Sejuani. Gives enough time for Wester, even though he was casked away, to come back with the Proto Belt. Faker will get out, but, you know, he'll be all right.
And there's a little bit of synergy there because it is a melee mid laner. You do stack up the Sejuani passive faster in those skirmishes rather than the range champions that do not.
Gentlemen, I'm seeing Westor and Mountain synergy. I'm seeing the narrative points, the history that these two guys have. And we've seen Chowie and Westor started, and one of the discussions we had was how much better Mountain and Westor could be if they're performing well. I'm going to bring us right back to the question, though. Is 1,000 gold lead at 20 minutes enough? No, I'm not going to, because once again, Sejuani and Gragas going to be trading blows. That was the ultimate thrown out from Mountain just to dissuade any further follow-up. And it seems like both of these teams gesturing for Mountain control.
I think the moment you talk about how big a gold lead you need to take down SKT, you're baiting us, Trevor. You're trying to bait us in here because we already saw them take down EDG in what felt like a one game for EDG. You look at the comps and there's good scaling on both sides. If anything, AHQ having the Cogmore can actually be different. We saw Prey pop off on Varus, but still, there are definitely, this is not an outscale draft by SK Telecom necessarily. So it's one of those games where it feels eerily reminiscent of that game 8 days ago between these two teams. The question is, how do AHQ move from this point? Do they rotate their vision? Do they actually force objectives? Because Rusty, I was watching back SKT versus AHQ. Chowie had some nice roams, AHQ were ahead, and I heard the word force be used by the casters an uncomfortable amount of times. Force Barons, Force Dragons, Force Fights. They never managed to do that.
That's because it was uncomfortable watching it, Papa Smithy. They never forced anything, and they had a lead in that game as well. They had the tempo, they had control, and slowly but surely, when you hit mid-game, the last time these two teams clashed, SKT brought it back piece by piece until they were ahead, and then they team fought went ahead.
Well, it feels like Mountain is trying to force more things this time around. He's got in Peanut's face multiple times, challenging for vision. He's got that Warmogs completed, so any poke damage he takes will just get regen for any further invades. And if you look at the minimap, AHQ were ready for that. They were grouping. All right, take a quick look at Ziv. He's got the Tiamat as well as the Sunfire Cape, trading fairly evenly with Huni. We're 21 minutes in, Ziv and Huni have not really been drawn into this game, but at some point, this will become a 5v5 and they will start joining.
So if I'm watching the VOD review as the coach right now, I'm saying, okay, what would I, if I was on comms, if I was talking to the quarterback, tell them to do? It'd be something like this, Trevor.
Oh my word, the prison onto Wolf, and they just come, oh, the taunt flash as well. Bang is the next target. There's a lot of armor to tower dive. They'll get at least one teleport, maybe more. Get stunned down. Spittle comes out as well. That's Faker's channel. And that's another kill for HQ.
I love it when it comes on screen just as I'm about to talk about it. Guess what, Trevor? With a Warmogs, you cannot kill the Sejuani. Turret dive, Varus and Lulu are plenty. They got the kill because they'd already been harassed down. But grouping up bot lane doesn't require a teleport ward. They have a Shen, and that's why that was the play to make.
They want Westor here.
See if they can find him. Westor uses the troll pole, flashes the barrel. Needed that one to get out, and Rusty, they did not kill him.
No, they didn't. SKT are trading as best they can, but it's still reactive to what AHQ are throwing at them. If the Mountain Drake's secured, big win for AHQ.
AHQ secure their first Mountain Drake of Worlds 2017. Howling Gale interrupts Faker for now, trying to body block. Mountain forced to flash, though. Not going to run the risk of getting caught, and AHQ, Mountain Drake, first tower, first blood, a 2,000 gold lead, and we're seeing proactiveness that was lacking last week in their defeat.
And we had some on-the-nose puns earlier. It is Mountain who is leading the charge. This is the lane to go to, because you don't need the deep blue side ward behind and have your Jarvan teleport. Shen can ride in on the unkillable Sejuani, comically tanky this early in the game, make the turret dive deeper than I thought it was going to be, but with how low the turret was, they just kept going.
Exactly, it was super deep, but the first turret blood was there for AHQ. They get that on most of the members of their team. I don't think they disperse that to a single person in particular, but this unlocks the map so much more for AHQ. Not only do they have the bottom lane outer turret, they can send that grouping towards the top side of the map if they wish. Shen much more available to help the team as well. Even though there is going to be a teleport for Huni, Shen's ult's not far away.
All right, Arctic Assault over the wall. Mountain is going to take a lot of damage. A little bit of slow thrown on the back end as Arn and Albus doing the best they can. Mountain is going to continue to run for his life. Westor still waiting in the wings. Got to be careful not to give up yet another kill. Mountain will get run down. No! The flash heal! Shield! Monsoon! Albus brings Mountain back from the brink. Now Westor first to use that troll pole to escape, and all of a sudden, AHQ, they fancy themselves a shot. Will force a flash to save his life, and AHQ save their jungler.
So tanky is the Sejuani that you can have the counter roam by the mid lane Janna to make him live. And this game point, where we are at 23 minutes, is beautiful for AHQ. They take down the bot lane turret. They're happy to have Fizz and Cassidy match each other. They even have a teleport advantage on the Fizz. But in the mid lane, it's Rageblade and Hurricane done for the Cogmore already. He can just freely push, and the moment they decide to push, the Sejuani invades, and they repeat their invasion plan again.
Oh, no room for error on the side of AHQ. Continuing to put Faker's low on mana, got flash available to him. Peanut doesn't have that ultimate either. Stun comes down, Faker's going low, forced to flash over the wall, gets just enough for one last Rift Walk to escape. And AHQ, by the way, secured the latest Tower First Blood of Worlds 2017. They still maintain a small gold lead here of around 2,000 gold. And when we look at AHQ's performances throughout Group Stage 1, they actually remained even for most of the time. They were not in a major lead, nor were they in a major deficit in comparison to how close they were.
And this feels a lot like the LMS special, just as much as it is AHQ. There's a flash walls problem that they were running into as well. They get leads, but when you hit a point where you're not sure how to utilize that lead to finish off a game, AHQ with lesser amounts of leads granted, they still stagnate. They still stay in the same position as everyone hovers around them because they're not too sure where to go next, it feels like.
But loss minimization is a skill in League of Legends as well, and those games were all very different. The C9 game was definitely a C9 favorite game against AHQ, and yet largely they stayed within touching distance. To me, if you're a coach, you look at that and think, all right, well, I don't actually need to change things too much to slightly move that one way or the other. He's trying to look for it to be more of a lead, and in this game, it still isn't a big gold lead, but the tempo they're playing at, the way they're playing the 1-3, and the fact that Mountain has gone from reactive to proactive makes you look at those stats and say, wait, could AHQ do this? Which is not something I would have said pre-group stage starting.
Mountain being proactive, but also just picking the Fizz in the middle lane, to me, adds that extra layer for the composition.
Are we endorsing this, Rusty? The blind pick Fizz?
Look, I'm not endorsing blind
yes.
pick, but I'm endorsing Fizz for AHQ and for Westdoor.
There is many impressionable solo queue players out there. They're going to hear that soundbite. They're going to take it away, so definitely tempo.
Papa Smithy, I have a message to solo queue. If you think you're the next Westdoor, pick your Fizz blind into Faker. Because if you can win with it, my word, what a message. Remember Wolf no flash from earlier? Manages to survive with wild growth. Oh, that's an aggressive flash forward. Will it pay off? The short answer is yes, as the barrel sends him to safety. May have saved Peanut's life as well. Tower number 2 falls and AHQ can continue the siege.
Mountain at any point has about 3,500 health with a Shen ultimate as well. So they keep turret diving. Faker's parked in a side lane. They're going to try and take a second turret mid.
Faker's not parked in a side lane. He's busy being battled by Westdoor. 2 towers in a row for AHQ. Finally going to go down as Arn takes a tower shot. Chum the Waters tags Faker, slows him down. AHQ can respond. Stand United being channeled as Faker manages to survive long enough. Flash away from Westdoor, gets away with the playful Trickster. AHQ are not done yet. 6 kills to 1.
Manages to survive just barely there. Westdoor from the reinforcements rotating from mid lane straight to bottom. Very clear plans coming out of the LMS side here. On the opposite side, Hooney's trading as best he can, but kudos to AHQ. They're being proactive. They're making the plays. Mountain is a monster.
And a lot of people come into Group A thinking it's SK Telecom, of course they'll win. And honestly, you feel guilty of that being an LCK caster when it's those toss-up games in Korea. But the thing that's happening more and more often this year, post-Rift Rivals, is that SKT have lost. They have not lost this game, but they haven't shown adaptation from the passivity and negative play they were showing in group stage. Compared to their 8 days of preparation time, I'm not seeing the SKT squad that, since we went to group stages, in group stage week 2s, they're 6-0. They've never lost in week 2 of a group stage.
I'm going to regret this. Is this the first time? It's a little early to say, but AHQ have got all of the ingredients and they are showing that growth, Papa Smithy, that we've not seen from SKT.
I'm so excited to hear Rusty's answer this question. What I will tell you, though, is that
all that thought.
Now say it.
Even if SKT win these games, it should be a caveat for expectations for them going forward because they're not showing change. They are being stubborn, and it still feels like weak victories, even if they do get over the line first.
I can answer this, or can I? Or are they going to fight? It's the question.
All right, Arctic Assault comes forward. I'm looking for the prison. Peanut is already stunned. Chum the Waters. That's a great zoning ultimate. Not going to allow the escape. Wolf forced to use the Glacial Prison, and he's popped. On gets another. That's a double kill. Dash forward, flash away from Faker, using that Rift Walk instead, rather. Mountains on a killing spree. AHQ, 3 kills for 0.
And straight to the Baron for AHQ. They're not looking at the Mountain Drake. It feels like they've answered for me, quick shot. They are putting in work. They are getting engages, and they are winning these fights.
Both Both these AD carries have the same playstyle in fights. Want to stay in one spot, throwing out those hurricane bolts. But the difference is always when you have Rageblade versus Rageblade in the tank line, and Mountain can jump into everyone. The assault means that no one can get past him, and Bang is zoned out of damage in most of these fights.
AHQ get Baron, extend the gold lead to 5,000. And here's a replay of that fight.
Once again, the awareness from Mountain of when to engage. Westor, it was a great zoning fish, as you mentioned, but the real MVP here is firstly Ziv tanking, but aren't able to freely deal damage. Compliments of a nice cast from the enemy team, knocking him forwards. Usually a curse, in this case a blessing, because it finds Wolf. When Wolf dies, Bang surely going to follow afterwards. No protection for the AD carry.
Well, there's a story and a half.
When you have a front line as robust as AHQ's, Arn does not drop auto attacks. Bang very early had to go up this cove towards the blue buff because he was afraid of dying, was killed at the end anyway, such as the reality of Avaris. We do not see Huni and Peanut as a robust front line. If you think about it, why are they fighting? Huni has a damn Ravenous Hydra. He is not set up to be a front line like Ziv and Mountain are.
Well, unfortunately for SKT, those questions mean another Dragon goes the way of HQ. 2 Mountains to help close out this game. Fitting, they had 0 leading up to this point. And, you know, you look at the LMS as a region, and it's been a trying few international events, if we put it that way. Used to be known as the Korean Killers. You know, used to be able to take down LCK squads. And AHQ maybe keeping their playoff dreams alive, maybe keeping that crazy shenanigans possibility. Because this gives hope to EDG. This breaks the group open just a little bit more, Rusty.
It definitely does. AHQ with the right foot forward to try and close this game out. We know SKT are keeping themselves in it. As turrets are being sieged, note that yes, a Mountain Drake went to AHQ because SKT chose a turret. And then they chose a turret mid lane for the Drake again. They're trying to get gold. They've realized it's very important to have gold for items so they can at least match the fight that is being thrown at them.
All right, AHQ are matching the towers. That's the 6th that they've taken down. Westor trying to keep Faker away. Inhibitor is the focus, and keeping my eye on Arn. Huni, by the way, bullied out of lane by Ziv. So Ziv is going to push that one up. Level 17, that stands united at max ranks, and it will provide a gigantic shield to whomever is the target. HQ playing this one patiently and controlled. 1 minute on Baron, multiple lanes pushing in their favor.
Note that Huni could have teleported onto the deep ward, but they don't want to fight. They don't feel like they can win if he flanks, so they're giving up the inhibitor for free.
And can AHQ get any more? Riftwalk to safety from Faker. Ziv peeled away from that top lane, and mid lane needs to be pushed back, but Super's in the bottom. This is going to give more control to AHQ.
It means that in about a minute from now, bottom lane will start to push for itself. They don't have a whole lot of Baron duration left, however, to utilize all 3 lanes pushing at the same time. They'll let bottom go in, it feels like. Mid lane, big priority because Ziv is doing so well against Huni. And if they ever keep Huni away from the team fights, he's a damage-dealing Jarvan that's stuck within the confines of his own base. That's really poor for SKT. They need to unlock Huni.
And that's why the build, to me, is a bit of a question, because it's really good at split pushing. He took down 2 of the turrets from AHQ's bot lane perspective, so he feels like he's done his job. But just like we saw when Samsung played Trundle, at some point you can't split push because the game is being lost in the 4. They don't have the vision or the map pressure to actually push out and have, say, for example, Kassadin matching Fizz and Jarvan matching the Shen. Shen will always have the advantage in a team fight if AHQ choose the time, because Stand United provides instant fight impact. You see Faker trying to chase down Westor, but seems optimistic at this point, Trevor.
Yeah, looking at the itemization, Protobelt, Hourglass, and Flash available for Westor. Obviously, Hourglass for Faker as well to complement that Roa Lichbane. And of course, AHQ, they are the ones that have been forcing the fights. They have been the proactive ones. And coming into today, Papa Smithy, you were very critical of the lack of proactivity. We said it on the deck.
Well, proactivity is currently happening in the top side of the map, quick shot.
Oh, look for the flash interrupt from Mountain. May not be enough just yet. Huni locks everybody inside the baby cave. Teleport's going to be completed by Faker, but it's a 3-on-2. Redemption coming down from SKT, buys a few seconds longer. Mountain still on top of this game, leading the way for AHQ. Got the prison down, holding Faker in place. Riftwalk is used and Flash is still available, not yet needed. But the heads up from Mountain to focus the next target, just beautiful to behold. hold.
And the comms from SKT have to be questioned. Oh, okay.
All right, didn't quite see how that happened, but all of a sudden, Westor got insta-gibbed. That's what you expect from a player like Faker. And the crowd erupts.
All we can criticize is the first call. SKT choose to use the teleport on AHQ's side of the map when they knew the rest of the team wouldn't be there to actually be reinforcements. They were likely to trade down. The Westor kill does change things a little bit.
It does indeed. 30 seconds on that death timer. They can't use that pressure anymore, Rusty.
No, they certainly can't. Of course, not even having the teleport there for Westor means that he'll be walking back to base, to the lane rather. Shen still has everything up. Teleport there, not Stand United just yet, but he's still mobile, so he can still pressure side lanes. Remember, the bottom is starting to push in with super minions as well, but we get to have a look at what happens on the top side of the map.
Consider where the rest of AHQ are on their side of the map compared to where SKT is, and Faker completes his teleport. Westor will do enough damage to take him down, but they still invest in this. Albus is always going to be there first. The Kog'Maw is going to react first. That's why Mountain looks for more targets. They don't find any more kills, but this was a losing fight choice by SKT.
Yeah, active choice to lose that fight. Westor didn't have a lot of health to his name. Good flash ult from Faker, though, out of range.
That's just a major oopsie that you cannot afford. Do you know, up until that kill, I genuinely bought into the hype that AHQ could win this game. Then Faker gets a surprise kill, and the amount of doubt seeping through me right now, but it is still a monumental defense that SKT have to pull.
And that is the reward you get for being 3-time world champions, for having Faker on your lineup. The lingering doubt never goes away, Trevor. I can tell you that much as a fact. But this is once again AHQ playing smarter than they did last week, growing the same lead that they were able to get against SKT last time, and SKT also making more of the mistakes. If you remember, those mistakes were often front-loaded. They were 15 to 20-minute mistakes. Now we're seeing 30 to 35-minute mistakes. It does not look like the SK Telecom that everyone holds to that high standard.
And here's the thing for me, though. For AHQ, there's still absolutely hope. It's a 6k gold lead, 2 Mountain. I'm looking at the Baron over the Elder as a bigger priority. It's very good as a siege enabler for this side, and I do think they should be prioritizing that buff. But at the moment, it feels like they're prioritizing the team fight on getting the pick first before they go for the objective.
Hey, why not both? If you get the team fight, maybe you can look. Of course, that Elder Dragon not going to empower anything on the side of SKT, as AHQ are going to start this one off. SKT waiting in the wings. Faker can come from that blue buff, and AHQ decide to peel away. Chum the Waters once again forcing Bang's flash. Faker is off on the sideline looking for the engage opportunity. Cataclysm can come down. That is a great prison. Bang continues to get zoned away by Mountain, while Huni and Faker get shut down inside the Cataclysm. Faker's going to have enough time to Riftwalk one last time. Now AHQ looking for more. There's super minions working their way towards the inhibitor, which has respawned.
And the question is, do they go for the end or just the inhibitor? With a teleport coming in, it's a risky play, but that's one carry gone.
It's only Bang with real ranged wave clear, and he has no flash, so he can be easily collapsed on. I think AHQ's smelling blood.
Are they going for the game? Zip's going to tank up the Nexus turret. Now Peanut left
That's
standing
one gone.
alone. That's one already down. The second is about to fall. AHQ, they're not being challenged. SKT, they can't stop them. AHQ are onto the inhibitor. They turn for the kills, trying to get one or two more. And AHQ strike down SKT.
SK Telecom may be the best squad to ever play League of Legends, but they are not the best squad at Worlds 2017. They continue to go for very defensive comps, but they make mistakes. You can see Faker's face. He is mad.
For the first time in SKT's history, they drop a game in week 2 of the World Championships.
I sat there watching SKT's games from week 1 last night, reviewing, and said, I don't know how this team is 3-0. They feel like a 1-2 team with how they've played. Their late game team fighting has been picture perfect, but the passage to late game team fighting has had pitfalls left, right, and center. Every player in the early game has looked unfocused. The game plan, the aggressive teleports when they're behind, unfocused. SK Telecom have a lot to work on, and not time, Trevor. They have to play 2 games more today, and even if they get through, suddenly teams waiting for that quarterfinal draw will say, hey, maybe.
Maybe you want them. I mean, they're no exception to the rule of having some weaknesses here at Worlds, but credit where it's due to AHQ for having a fantastic performance. Namely, if we're going to pick a player on this team that stepped up to the plate, absolutely Mountain. That guy had an incredible performance. The engages, the aggression, something that we haven't seen from them in the first week was very prevalent here, and that was against SKT.
near flawless. It felt like every time Mountain was somewhere, there was support for the rest of the team. I will forgive that single death from Westor now that they've won the game, but unbelievable performance in this now, but it really widens the whole group. If EDG start to pick up some wins, it just makes it very confusing.
The belief is there now, Trevor.
Oh, it really is. So AHQ managed to take down the undefeated SKT. For more, let's head over to the analyst desk.
I can't believe it, Quick Shot. What did I say? When everything seems certain, it means nothing is certain. AHQ with a big victory over the undefeated SKT at this point, moving to 2-2 and blowing the group wide open.
Yeah.
And I think the stat that was pointed out is actually pretty absurd. This is their first time they've ever lost in week 2 of Worlds groups. So pretty insane that AHQ is the one to take them down. And I mean, SKT showed some real weaknesses, but a lot of credit, I think, has to go over to AHQ as well and how well they play.
Crumbs, isn't it just fitting that they do it with Westor's Fizz?
Yes, exactly. The Fizz was such a smart pick from here because if you watch SKT and the way they play, when they commit to Gragas, Jarvan, Varus, and Lulu already, you can expect them to go with a diving composition. It fits the theme of the meta. You want to dive the AD carry. And so I was expecting SKT to go with a Fizz and AHQ to go with just a standard mid laner. But taking it away was a huge deal because you already have a 1v1 split pusher that's going to be a relatively even lane, but you have Shen on top of it. So you win that matchup already. And then how is SKT supposed to kill the Kog'Maw if his build is effective? He built beautifully. You've got your Randuins, you've got your QSS, your Wits End. So they played the composition to a T for what SKT brought out. And this AHQ lineup all of a sudden 2-2 they could actually be making a run for it.
And all that being said, we can get into the role, but I want to focus also on Mountain, because Mountain, I think, you know, in the early game was incredible. Yes, Westor's Fizz was picking up a lot of the kills, but it's Mountain who was everywhere this game. He was out farming Peanut. He was controlling the lanes and finding gank after gank after gank, despite the immense amount of vision that SKT had around the jungle. And I just think that he deserves so much credit for this win, was involved in everything and straight up outplayed Peanut.
Yeah, and there's really only 2 options for AHQ in the early game in terms of how their composition came together. Either you look for the dive bottom because you have the Shen, you can get there first, or you continue to blitz into Peanut's jungle and use the Shen on the Sejuani, and then you follow it up with a Fizz, and that was kind of their key to success. And Peanut has kind of been very quiet. Yes, he's putting down a lot of vision, they're gathering a lot of information, but this isn't the heavy ganking style Peanut that we're used to seeing, you know, of seasons past, of Rock's Tigers past. Right. He's almost been molded into Bengi-esque.
It's been neutered.
I guess, yeah. AHQ, they build themselves a small lead, but it's, you know, the truth of watching an SKT game, when you look at a small minor lead or something like that against them, and you say, I still have faith in SKT. There's still that opportunity for them to come back. We've got to wait until we see the team fights and watch a team actually close on them to come away with the victory. That's exactly what happens at 29 minutes of Fight in the River. AHQ coming up big. This replay brought to you by Acer Predator.
All eyes really need to be on Albus and how he's going to play out this fight in particular, because it's how he doesn't get involved in all of the damage and then is able to hit the redemption, hit the heal, and bring his team back to life as soon as SKT try to make that dive.
And to me, this is kind of very reminiscent of the fight that SKT had against EDG when they're massively down. They find the perfect combo, but this time the Janna is on the outside, does not get hit by any of the damage, channels a full ultimate, gets the redemption, throws down a shield, and when you are behind and you have that Ardent Sensor support putting out so much healing and so much shielding, you really can't punch through.
But the difference between this game against against HQ and the one against EDG is that the draft from SKT did not have any comeback options. AHQ really stuffed them at every step of the way. And compare it to when they drafted against EDG, you have Orianna, you have Rakan, you have Twitch, you have a late game threat that you can actually capitalize on this. Here in this composition, even if you put it 6 items each, I actually don't see how SKT can come out ahead, because when you have the Janna, you have the Shen, how are you supposed to kill anybody? And once again, the syndrome of first picking Janna, I did not think it would spread to the SKT lineup, but it has, and they pay dearly.
So one thing. I will say, you're counting out Faker on Kassadin.
Yeah,
I mean, come on, you're talking about late game options. I think that I would put more faith in a level 18 6-item Faker on Kassadin than almost anything else.
Kog'Maw with Wits End, with Mercurial Scimitar,
so I think
with
you're trying to avoid
Janna
the fights,
Shen.
right? In that situation, I think you're trying to take over in a side lane. You're trying to find picks. Yes, but I mean, there's also, like, Jarvan is building for a split push style. To me, so much of this game came down to how Mountain played and how the 3-man core played, because
SKT, I think, is trying to spread the map. When you're going Ravenous Hydra J4, I think you're trying to be in a side lane. When you're building this cast in, I think you're trying to scale up and be in a side lane, and that's how SKT, I think, wanted to win.
I'm sorry, Crumbs, I want to get Frost in here before we go.
I'm ready to take off the kid gloves with SKT. I know what you're saying. It's Faker's casting, but at the same time, if you cover up those nameplates...
They made mistakes.
Exactly. You look at that, if that was TSM playing, they'd be roasted alive right now, but we're like, it's SKT, 10K gold down, 9K gold down. They're always going to come back. At some point, they're not going to come back. If they keep playing like this, they run into Longzhu, it's done.
And to be fair, I wasn't saying that they shouldn't get criticism. I'm just saying if they got to the late game, they have options.
We want you to hate them now.
All right, AHQ, they pulled off a big upset against SKT, rather. We're going to head over to Shox for a word with their man in the mid lane.
Thank you very much, guys. We are here with Westdoor after a fantastic victory from AHQ. And, well, after a shaky week 1, you guys now take down the 3-time world champions SKT. How does that change your outlook of how the rest of the day is going to go and your chances of getting out of groups?
首先恭喜你获得刚刚那一场比赛胜利。那你们上礼拜表现可能不如预期，但是这礼拜第一场对上世界冠军就赢了他们。那你接下来对接下来的比赛有什么不一样的看法吗？你觉得打进8强的信心有增加吗？
今天就是打 SKT， 就是本来就预料到比较难打，但是我们今天会把目标重点放在就是最后一场打 C9 的吧，所以能打赢 SKT 我们很开心，对，就是。 但是最重要还是在打 C9 的那个比赛上面。
We know that coming into today, our game against SKT would be hard, but we actually focused more on our game against Cloud9, which is our last game of the day. But we're still very happy to be able to beat SKT.
Oh, so it wasn't that much focus on the game, but did you still think, oh, well, today I'm just going to blind pick Fizz and win versus Faker and that'll be it?
今天早上起来就突然想到说，我今天要盲选菲斯吗？为什么会选菲斯这个角色？
为什么会选费角师？就是因为，因为他们都很相信我玩这只英雄，他们说我玩这只英雄长得不太一样。然后虽然我自己不是很有信心，但是队友跟教练都很相信我，所以我们今天就决定拿出这套阵容来对付 SKT。
So my teammates trusted me that I would be good on Fizz. Even though I'm not so sure myself, but they really, really trusted me, so that's why we went into today's game with Fizz.
I think you're becoming pretty legendary on Fizz. Congratulations on a great first match, and also from the entire broadcast crew. Congratulations on becoming a father, Westdoor, and congratulations and good luck in the rest of the day. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, it'll be EDG up versus C9. Don't move.
Let's see if the CC comes from. There's the permafrost as well. Chumba wants his tags from a good distance. First blood to Westdoor.
杀露露可以杀露露。这波小心点，让露露打不了。扶起来，可以扶起来。AD。还没打，可以发龙哦。Nice。
Ben continues to get zoned away by Mountain, while Huni and Faker get shut down inside the Cataclysm. Faker's going to have enough time to Riftwalk one last time. AHQ, they're not being challenged. SKT, they can't stop them. AHQ are onto the inhibitor. They've turned for the kills, trying to get 1 or 2 more. And AHQ strike down SKT.